before anything else, is what is your connection? Do you have a legitimate connection? If you don't, are you going to create that? Are you going to take the time to create it? Are you going to humble yourself to allow the other person to tell you their story and not be concerned about, this story I think has more drama, so I'm going to try to manufacture drama for that. No, you got to kind of, accept it for who it is and tell that story.
Yeah, that's super dope. Sean Garvey, this is your fault. You had two of the most bomb guests of all time in history. And so we're trying to get the information while we're here. But David, I think one thing that you're saying, in short, once again, I know we got to bounce out, but the thing is, I think that the example of what you just laid out, I see it every day. I'm a foodie. I am a severe foodie. I love food, which is why I work out so much, because I love to eat all the time. And so, but I'm watching people that have developed some sustainable incomes where it's steady, like they know it's coming based off hits and social media participation. But I watch people just pick up iPhones. And when you talk about, to paraphrase you, when you talk about what's around you, what are your resources, what is around you that you can make impact with? When you look on the internet, people are making livings off of just doing food reviews and going in, like talking to mom and pop shops and things like that. And this is something that I don't think we ever thought maybe 10 or even 20 years ago. I don't think we thought that would have made sense to anyone. And now it has become like a major online commodity to seek out what's in your bubble and expose that and make a living off of that.
Yeah. There's people I know. They have a leg just talking about comic books. Guys I know just do history, just do video games. It's just, and you're right. They found what was in, and what comes along with that is usually a passion. Right. I tell people, it's like, when you're trying to figure out what's the one thing that you're willing to stay up late to do? What's the one thing that you like to do that you will get up out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning because you have an idea for? That one thing that doesn't, there's no effort to it. It's the thing you want to do. It's the thing when you're at work that you want to do while you're at a job. And if you focus it might not be, but if you can focus on whatever that thing is, that's usually telling you what direction to go. Now, monetizing that's a whole nother, I know that there's the challenges around that. But yeah, that's what I kind of tell people is whatever you're willing to stay up late for and get up early for and get out of bed for, and it doesn't seem like an effort, it's something that you want to do. That's your direction. That's at least putting you on that path.
Yeah. I want to circle back to something that you said about when it comes to content creators, because I am a content creator, and I'm currently working on a scripted podcast series called Unemployment Check. You may have heard me talk about it or mention about it on social media a few times. It's actually in the production development stages as we're speaking. And I totally 100% agree with what you stated earlier. I come across people who have great ideas, including me, because I'm also talking to myself as well. But we have all these great ideas. We have all these great story ideas and stuff. But if we don't have the finances or the resources to back it up with, it can be a bit challenging and a bit like an obstacle course, if you will. But, if you have a great story and you want to share it with the world, I know there's other ways to get around doing that without having to pay. Because like you stated earlier, film is the most expensive thing that you could ever make. And so the idea that me and my team had was just to do it as a podcast first and let it build from there to where it can turn into a television series, a made-for-TV series, or a mini series, or even to a film. With that be something you would suggest to beginners and people that are just starting out for the first time with, especially with podcasts being popular these days? Would that be something you would suggest to beginners as they're starting out into this endeavor?
Absolutely. And yeah, find the content that you're comfortable with, that you're passionate with, and you have the research for it. And also, check your circle, of what, because usually if you're in the arts, usually you have something that you do, but you're usually around people who have something else. And they're like, for example, when I first started doing documentaries, and I'll ask people, can I interview you? Or like, I would like shoot an event. We had this whole barter system where it's like, yeah, shoot my event, but can you give me a snippet of this song that I need to put on my social media, or I need my music video? So we would trade stuff. Like, I would have a friend who was a musician. He was like, yeah, if I get that, and he would, okay, here's some songs I did. I have my soundtrack. Friends who were photographers who, I got some lights. Here you go. Here's and I'll take a photo, and it ends up being the poster. So it ended up being this just, incredible, arts barter system we had with people, that because if you're in that circle, you're usually around some talented people. So like I said, going back to what I was saying is check your circle, and you don't, like, I never try to go in and try to get people to do something free. It's like, what can you offer somebody, and what can they offer you just as a friend? Like, you're like, I have this skill in this. You need an EPK? I'll do your EPK. Thanks. Here, I'm a musician. You need soundtrack. Here's these songs. You can use them in your project. And so you find that I kind of despise word synergy, but yeah, that kind of stuff. Like, I'm burned out on the word synergy, so I apologize for not saying it. But yeah, that's basically what it is.
Yeah, David Weathersby on the Beat Break Morning Show, providing us with some free game on the film, television, and documentary industry, man. Now, and I'm learning a lot as we go along, because tapping into this world of filmmaking and television and film and stuff, it's still a new world to me. Even though I went to television and film school for something else, it's still a new world to me, especially with the new advanced technology that we have nowadays. And you got even film directors and even video directors, David, shooting film off of iPhones. Yeah. Do you think that's, because everybody's doing it. I mean, there's no stopping in people taking advantage of the new technology that we have in front of us. But is it still beneficial, especially now in monetized times, to still use the equipment that many filmmakers and people in the industry that's been around for a long time, whatever? Do you think using that type of equipment, I would say, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to use the word old, but I don't want to use the word vintage either. But I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. The vintage equipment.
The traditional way of doing things.
There you go. The traditional way. Do you think the traditional way is still more beneficial to get content out there? Is there still a need for, like Star said, the traditional way of capturing and filming content?
It's both things, and it can be kind of a double-edged sword. It's new content, new technology is always great because it opens doors for people who normally couldn't do stuff. However, you always have to have a basis in the would you say traditional, because it's like history. It can teach you how to do things. Like, for example, a lot of times people, because cameras, they feel like because the camera handles so much, they don't have to learn proper lighting technique. No, you still need to. You need to learn the lighting technique that they were using years ago, because that was based in a time where it was very unforgiving. It was very, you had to have everything right. Same thing with audio. You had to have everything right. So learning those techniques makes you better. When you get to the point where you're relying on the technology to cover mistakes and do stuff. Like there's always a joke in film of like fix it in post, which you should never do because you usually can't fix anything in post. That's when people get frustrated. So you have to have a knowledge of the traditional of why they're there, because a lot of those were created at a time, when there was a much smaller margin of error. And if you could master those techniques, it's almost like practicing in sports. If you can get through a very hard practice for hours, a game seems easy, and it's the same principle. If you can master these older techniques, some of these principles. Now, granted, things change, because everything's changed, and sometimes they're just obsolete. So you have to be able to tell the difference of that. But you still have to realize you still have to put in the work. You still have to know your craft, be accurate with things. Even if you can't get to the point where you feel like I'm going to let this camera do everything for me, because you will find out really fast in post-production, it can't do everything. And also you will lose, in that kind of creation of lighting and everything, you find your kind of your voice. That's how that's how people find their technique and what they like and their signature. You see like some directors and they have a kind of a signature and a style. And you're like, how did they come to that? Well, they got that through, trying stuff out, trying different cameras, trying lighting, figure out what they liked through those process and figuring out this is what I want to do. And then they started, once they got comfortable with it, then you can experiment. Next, you've created your own kind of technique. But that all stems from kind of knowing where it is. You have to keep one foot in knowing it and having one foot that's willing to branch out and break rules if necessary. But you got, like I said, you got to know the rules before you can break them. So.
Right. It's so dope. You said that. Because I know quite a few video producers and directors and things like that, but they the notorious in the film industry. I don't know if it's still notorious. I know at one time, red digital cinema, the red camera.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that was, I don't know if it was, David, you know better than me, but I don't know if that was Holy Grail, but it was like that red camera was a big deal. And I don't know the price point, but I know that I've seen reds that were like 20 grand, 14 grand, 6 grand. And nowadays, when you think about a studio, like a full-blown studio, a recording studio is literally a MacBook, a little MIDI board, a Pro Tools, and a little bit, but no matter what you have. I'm watching a guy that's breaking into the business, and he literally has an iPhone 13. And he's talking to a friend of mine, Tony Ring, shout out Tony. And Tony is a red guy. And they're talking, and he's like, I won't be able to buy the red because I record music too. I don't have that kind of budget. He's like, well, here's the difference between me and you. But here's where we're very much alike, but here's where we're different. I have what they say is a higher technology or industry guideline. But the one thing that I can't get past, you and I got to learn the same thing. And what is that? Whether it's your phone or whether it's this renowned, notorious red digital. What's the thing? He was like, I'm not quite sure. He says, what you know about lighting?
Mm-hmm.
What you know about framing? Like, what do you know? Because on your iPhone 13, you can create a masterpiece. And on my red, if you understand lighting and all that stuff on your i13, you may be able to create a masterpiece. And on my red, if I don't, I can create a disaster.
Yeah, no,
but we have more in common than you think.
Absolutely. I always thought it was surreal. Granted, like I said, red is, I don't want it. It will give you a look that's just amazing. But I thought it was surreal. I was in a film festival one time, and they were going through and they were showing. I was sitting at the theater, and most of I'd done with like DSLR cameras, and I knew people. I'd seen a production. I know they had done stuff on red, and I just thought to myself, I said it was kind of weird. I'm like, but we're all here.
We all here.
Here in the same festival. We're all here in the same spot, that's this 20, there are things up on the screen that were shot with a $20,000 camera and less than 1,000, camera, and it really is, like I said, it's lighting and it's content. If you do a great story or a compelling story on an iPhone 13, as opposed to doing something that's not as interesting on a Red, no one's I'm just people it comes down to it. It's like, aesthetics are important. They can make or break. They can take away from your story if you're technically not sound. It's distracting, but at the end of the day, it's what you do with the equipment that really kind of
awesome
says it all.
Yeah, yes, I agree. David, before we let you go, we only got a few minutes left in this hour on the Beat Break Morning Show. David Weathersby on the morning show with us. You have a project you're working on. Expound on that. We talked a little bit about that offline. But I'm big shout out to Riddell Drakeford, also from Chicago, a Chi-Town native. He brought some video clips to my attention. He actually DM'd me in my Instagram, and he was just like, yo, you gotta interview this brother, because look what he's doing for the city of Chicago. Look at what he's putting out there and stuff. And I took a look at it. I was like, oh, this is very impressive. So expound on the project that you got going on right now.
The project I got going on and whatever, it's called It's Different in Chicago. And what it does is, a lot of people know, if you know about house music, Chicago, home of house and just house music, and Chicago also has a very strong hip hop scene. And when I got here, I noticed that just the different cultures, because when I was coming up, most places, a lot of times hip hop is a dominant, but in Chicago, the biggest music festival is probably Chosen Few, which is 40,000. That's a house thing. We have, like you were saying earlier about the plaza, there's a plaza here, Daily Plaza, one of the biggest plazas in the city. People come out for just 1 hour, just for some house music for, just for 1 hour for a lunch break thing. And I just thought that was fascinating, because it was beyond just they're fans of the music. There was a culture, there was a history behind it, how it branched out, how, it represented like communities, like LGBT communities when it was dangerous for them to be out, be out in public, and just the history kind of, and how in Chicago hip hop had to come in and introduce itself as opposed to everywhere else. So I just thought showing the contrast of those two cultures and show how it's kind of symbolic of different cultures within the Black community. Right. It was kind of a metaphor for our different communities, and how sometimes we, they might be conflicts, but sometimes they complement it. One of the guys I've been so blessed to work with, Kahari B. I did the debauchery ball, was about his event, everything. I think he had the best quote about house and hip hop. He said, "Funk and disco had two babies. One went to New York, one went to Chicago." And it's just basically showing, like, how they're both roughly the same age and the two different paths they came up with, but both those paths represent community and cultural and things that came straight out of black music tradition and Black culture and Black history. And so that's a documentary I'm working on as right now. I'm honored to say that we have a screening. I'm flying out tomorrow because we have a screening in New York at the Apollo for the documentary. And nice. So doing that. And so, so that's the project I'm working on now. We're about to do the director's cut of the Debauchery Ball, which was another incredible, fun story. It's an annual party that combines house music, BDSM, kink, and Afrofuturism all in one big just wild party every year that everybody goes to.
I'm going to need to hear that, David. I might have to attend.
Yeah, it's the Badger Ball is yeah. It is.
And I don't
it
even
is
come out, and I'm gonna have to attend that.
Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful community of just like freedom. I was so honored to be able to do the documentary, and we are still going strong. We're about to do the Director's Cut with with music. We got just a lot of stuff coming out. But yeah, it's just this mix of just of expression and freedom, sexual freedom, but also community and art and safety and consent and like kind of helping people kind of, express themselves, as sexual, but in a consent and healthy way. And, it all to house music. And so yeah, those are the two projects I work on. And it's just been an absolute pleasure and honor that everyone that I've been able to interview and work with. And it's just, it's been surreal, and I'm just incredibly thankful.
Well, when you have the screening down here in Atlanta, please let me know, or have your people let me know, or I might just have to hit up Riddell and find out when that screening in Atlanta is going to be, because I want to see this. I want to see it's different in Chicago. I don't want to just see the trailer and the promo, but I want to see the entire film. And I like how you have the title saying it's different in Chicago, because people still need to be reminded that propaganda in the media can sometimes misinform others that Chicago is not what people think it is. Just Chicago is a very big culture shock. It's a very different experience out there. I know plenty of people in Chicago. Shout out to my people checking in at Beat Break Radio from Chicago. But it gives people that different outlook on Chicago. And that's why I mentioned the movie, the TV show, The Chi. Because I'm really proud that Lena and all the other people behind that show give viewers and audiences a different outlook on what Chi really is. Every state has a pro and con. Every state has its good and its bad, but you really don't know Chicago until you go out there and visit. It's one thing to hear about it on the radio and to hear about it on TV, especially with the propaganda and things of that sort. But it's a different thing when it comes down to going out there and experiencing the culture and the environment and out there. So, indeed.
Yeah. That's one of the things that drove me to want to do documentaries, because I was so tired of the narrative. I would go out and see these, incredibly talented people, incredibly, just warm, fun people, all these, very unique, and then find out some of the stuff that, other places are taking credit for started in Chicago. And then you turn on the news and there's only one narrative they want to hear, and, will actually kind of reject anything positive. And I was like, this needs to be time stamped, because if something's not done, this will be kind of etched in stone. And it will be. So I whatever little bit I could do. And that was kind of my driving force, is just to counter, I'm not be naive or anything, but people deserve to hear every side of the story. And that's the beauty. Beauty is just as real as positivity is just as real as negativity. And it's not fair. It's not fair to just lean on the negativity, especially when it's not unique to just Chicago. People need to have both stories, and then you make your judgment about it. And that's the one thing I said. It's like, it's not rose-colored glasses. It's just that the narrative needs to be balanced.
Indeed. It's just like in Atlanta. It's just like in Atlanta, people see Atlanta as a Black Wakanda, Black Hollywood. And then you have those that see Atlanta as a city of strip clubs and gay people and this, that, and the third. But we are so much more in Atlanta. So it's the same thing with Chicago and everywhere else. Mr. Moody, did you have something to say?
No, I just wanted to say that seriously, Sean, you pretty much you started the runway for what I was going to say anyway. Listen, get on a plane and go to Chicago. Seriously, get on a plane or a car, however you get there. Go to LA. LA is not a bunch of Bloods and Crips walking around the place. Just like wherever you go, it's like a Blood or Crip and everything is like menace to society. That's not what California is. In Chicago, even as far as musically, I noticed that David said something really interesting that it could be, maybe I don't have them word for word, but it's like New York had two babies and they went to Chicago. Well, that there's some truth to that, but to bring it back though, hip hop, what is more influential than literature? Everything. Because I was about to go, Sean, I was about to do my show and say my word, but MFers don't really like reading anymore. So we know literature is not that powerful. So we know that film, we know that people love film, but the one thing that from now to the beginning of time, from tribal Egypt to tribal Africa, the most influential source in the world will always be music. It won't ever change. It's not ever going to be anything different than that. And when you think about Chicago, hip hop in itself, which is probably the biggest art form, they say it's country. Country is Black music, so whatever. But hip hop is a powerful influence. And what I try to tell people about Chicago and places like that, you guys remember something. When you listen to hip hop, if New York launched babies, then Chicago made kings and they sent them back to New York, because hip hop is comprised off of organic boom bap. Hip hop is comprised off of reggae culture. Hip hop is comprised off of the 1980s, the explosion of the house music scene in the 80s in Chicago. And hip hop is comprised off of jazz music that, of course, we all know that came out of New Orleans. And so go to these places and see that everything is the same. By the way, the people that are giving you the propaganda, the people that are giving you the false narrative, here's what you need to understand. When you have a senator from Kentucky saying, what about Chicago? Perhaps we should talk about the methamphetamine infested child trafficking portion of Kentucky. We won't ever be able to go anywhere where the sins are not equal. If you stop listening to what people say, go to Chicago, you won't get robbed. Go to Chicago and be smart. Go to New Orleans. Hey, listen, go to New Orleans and be smart. Now, as a native New Yorker, you might want to skip New York, but then go to LA and whatever, because New York is a lot of times exactly what the hell we're telling you that it is. So, because we are the melting pot. But David, I want to thank you so much for that, man, especially from you coming from the West Coast and loving where you came from, but embracing where you're at. You know, it needs to be known, Chicago's impact on the biggest form of Black music, which is hip hop, it is immeasurable. You know, Chicago did that boom, 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 4 strikes per measure. Yeah. And then we start going boom, 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 8 strikes, 9 strikes, 10 strikes. Chicago started the boom, 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 the synth light, all of that orchestra kind of club stuff. It came out of Chicago, and New York took it. I know ain't nobody on here old enough that they don't know Jungle Brothers, Girl, I'll House You. You in my house now. Doom, 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 doom. New York we are very influenced by Chicago, New Orleans, California, and of course, New York, the influencer itself. People get in the car, get on a plane, go to Chicago, be wise like you should be in Missouri or Kentucky or Indiana or Georgia. Be wise like you should be anywhere. And when you come back, you'll understand what false narrative is. But don't just learn about false narrative and come back and don't say nothing. Come back and let everybody know what false narrative is, because you'll find it. Yeah.
That if it asks for anything, that would be it. It's just tell truth and tell people what you see.
Tell the truth.
That would be greatly appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, David, we really appreciate you for coming on the Beat Break Morning Show. If anybody want to check out your content, your films, your documentaries, all that great stuff, where can they go to, and how can they reach you for more information?
Well, the main one is my company page, which is cityvanguard.com, CITYVANGUARD.com, City Vanguard. Debauchery Ball has its own website, the with 2 E's, the Debauchery Ball doc. And then we're working on a new project, a new animation, which is called the District Documentary, which is an animated documentary that's we're still working on now. And so that website's up too. But everything flows through cityvanguard.com. Come check it out. If you search anything from David Weathersby or City Vanguard or any of the social medias, it's me. I'm not that creative with names. So just I just have the same name on all social media. So just David Weathersby or City Vanguard. That's me.
That's him all day. All right. Well, David Weathersby, thank you so much for coming on the morning show with all this great information.
Thank you,
man.
It was an honor. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And it's been very helpful, man. And I gotta definitely keep in contact with you for some upcoming projects in the near future. Because you spoke about circles earlier, and I think it's very important too that we check our circles and check the people that we're around, because we never know. You never know.
You always check your circle.
You have an idea. Always check your circle. There's plenty of circles here in Atlanta. Many circles here in Atlanta. It's crazy, man. And I'm glad that, shouts to Waddell Drakeford. I'm glad that he put me on to you. And you just showed me the amazing work that you have done for the community and for people who are lovers of the art and the culture. So I really appreciate you. You will be hearing from me very soon, David. So
Great,
really appreciate it.
I am always a phone call or email away. You just contact me anytime.
Hey, David, I'm gonna need you to go find that shirt and send me that shirt, bro.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with it now. I'm gonna be up tonight. I'm gonna find out, because now it's stuck in my head.
I got you on the Cash App. Find that shirt, bro. That's gonna be the next.
I'm on the lookout. I'm on the lookout.
Yeah, the next documentary is David's shirt. I want that shirt.
It was a pleasure, David.
Thank you so much, David Weathersby.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, be safe.
All right,
man. David. Good night. Good morning. David Weathersby, filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, music video director, producer, all great things. Dropping that free game on the Beat Break Morning Show, man. What other podcast can you get this free game from this great information? What other podcast?
This morning was fire.
David, look, he was looking sexy on that profile pic, though.
I knew you was gonna say something.
Whoa, light skin with braids, baby. Boom.
He was giving me a bit.
You kept it professional, though, ma. You kept it professional, Queen.
I couldn't wait for him to get off so I could talk about them light skin with braids.
Oh my goodness!
So you can talk that talk. Yeah.
Lord, yeah, mercy.
But yeah, he was loving it. I mean, tonight was this morning and tonight, because somewhere in the world. Anyways, but it was good. I always think about that, Sean. Remember when you used to come on the show every morning drinking a beer?
Beer or wine?
Wine, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Moody is with the beer. I'm with the wine.
Yeah, I was talking about you though, Sean. It was the wine, and not only the wine. You had special drinks made. Was it margaritas?
Courtesy, by the way, folks, ladies and gentlemen. Not brought to you by Gloria Margarita. Not brought to you by. We're not endorsing. We're just showing you what I've been sipping on throughout the duration of the broadcast. So I mean, I'm not endorsing. I'm just presenting.
I said
but no, that's kind of the same thing. So
well, and as far as
nighttime somewhere, right? Like it's always nighttime somewhere. So
Well, it's nighttime. It gotta be nighttime. What is this? It's okay. So it's morning.
It's the
time
Beat Break. It's the Beat Break morning show.
Well, it's evening time in New Zealand. If it's the morning in America, it's evening time in New Zealand. So there we go. It's nighttime in New Zealand. Let's move on. And by the way, folks, if you guys want to hear a host that fully indulges drinking fully on the job to no extent and still recording, make sure when I make my return, that is the wow, that is going to be the WOW. Make sure you tune in for me. If you want to hear a drunken host keep it together for a couple of hours, y'all come check me out. I got you, promise. I won't be very sober, but I have it together for you.
I mean, nobody knows.
You can't make this up. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're experimenting throughout the duration of the show. Now I figured something else out. We can go live on YouTube.
I saw you.
By the way.
It was cool.
We can go live on YouTube. Mm. So we're live on YouTube at Beat Break Radio. We're live on IG, and we're live on Zoom.
We lit.
So we are. We're definitely lit. Absolutely. So for all my IG people out there, like I said, I think starting next week, because we're now in the third hour of technically we're in the fourth hour of the morning show, because we got the Beat Break Morning News airing at the top of the hour now. So we got the Beat Break Morning News with Michelle Dawes-Burt and a few other news correspondents. We're now going to air the Beat Break Morning News for 1 hour from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Shout out to Michelle Dawes-Burt, who's been holding it down with us for the past couple of years now with Real Chicks Rock. And she got her own podcast now, the Beat Break Morning News, in which you can check it out on Spotify.
Love it.
I'm loving it. I love how we expanded. So we got the Beat Break Morning News from 6 to 7 Eastern Standard Time, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And then from 7 to 10 is the full hour of the Beat Break Morning Show. So now we're in the fourth hour of the morning show, and we're at the top of the hour. So stick around. We got more of the Beat Break Morning Show. We got to hit this top of the hour, and we will be right back with the trending report with Star Kels. And
we're gonna talk about
a split. We're gonna talk about some ice cream.
Talk about some ice cream.
We're gonna talk about some ice cream.
Ice cream. You scream. We all scream for ice cream.
I scream for Star. By the way she was shaking that, I scream for Star. I ain't gonna scream for no ice cream.
That's chocolate ice cream.
That's chocolate ice cream. Y'all want to stay here, or y'all want to go on IG? Which y'all want to do?
Well, I don't really know what the hell I'm doing right now, so just tell me what to
do. I mean, can we just stay here?
Okay.
Well, what would be most effective?
I mean, if you want to interact with the listeners.
So let's go to IG.
Star, you want to stay here by yourself, or you want to go to IG? What you want to do?
I follow y'all. The men.
I ain't going nowhere without the orange M&M, baby. The M&M got to go. Where we go, the M&M. I'm following the M&M.
I know how to let a man lead now. I'm letting y'all lead.
All right, well, let's go then. God damn it, Star, pack your bags. We going over to IG.
All right, y'all. We're going on IG on the fourth hour of the Beat Break Morning Show. So follow us there at Beat Break Radio on Instagram. And we got more of the Beat Break Morning Show. Stay tuned for the station ID and some commercials, because, of course, we got to pay these bills. And we will be right back with more of the Beat Break Morning Show. Y'all keep it locked.
Okay, so the recording's off?
The recording's off? Yep.
Okay, so even I can't fuck this shit up, right? Like it's like it's just like I'm just going to IG.
You're just going to IG.
Okay.
Yep. All right.